My name's Jack. I'm 34, a single dad, and for most of my adult life, I've kept my head down and done what needed to be done for my daughter, for my job, and for my family, even when they didn't always deserve it. I never expected much from my parents. They were always the type to make you feel like love was conditional, dependent on achievements, appearances, obedience. But I thought that once I had a daughter of my own, maybe they'd mellow out, grow softer. I was wrong. My daughter, Lily, is 8. She's got this quiet kind of sweetness about her, the kind that makes you slow down and notice how much light a child can carry without even realizing it. She's shy, but she's not weak. And she's the reason I've been able to push through the long hours at work, the stress, the loneliness. Ever since her mother walked out on us when Lily was barely 3, it's just been the two of us. She's my whole world. For years ago, I started secretly covering my parents' mortgage. They were on the brink of losing the house, and while I had no fond memories tied to it, I couldn't stomach the thought of them being out on the street. My sister, Rachel, made it clear she wouldn't lift a finger to help. They chose their lifestyle, she told me once over coffee, eyes glued to her phone. They didn't exactly support me through college, either. That was true, but I still couldn't ignore it. So, I called the bank, made arrangements, and every month since then, like clockwork, I've sent that payment. They never knew it was me. I didn't do it for thanks. Honestly, I did it hoping maybe, just maybe, they'd see me differently, respect me, maybe even love me in a way that didn't feel like a performance review. But the months turned into years, and things never changed. Every visit still felt like stepping back into high school, where I was always too soft, too emotional, not as put together as Rachel. She was the golden child, the one with the picture-perfect marriage, the Instagram-ready twins, the husband in real estate. Meanwhile, I was the guy who worked in tech support, raising a daughter alone and living in a modest apartment one town over. That day started like any other. I had the afternoon off, and Lily asked if we could visit Grandpa and Grandma. She's always been curious about them, wanting some version of grandparents like the kids in her class talked about. The kind who sneak candy into your backpack or tell embarrassing stories about your dad when he was little. I didn't want to deny her that chance. Maybe I should have. When we pulled up to the house, the front door was wide open, and I could hear voices from inside. Laughing. I remember thinking it was nice to hear laughter in that place, even if it usually wasn't meant for me. Lily held my hand as we stepped in, and the first thing I noticed was the mess. Toys everywhere, Barbie dolls, a pink scooter, a juice box leaking onto the tile. Rachel's daughters were sprawled out on the couch, one watching a tablet with headphones on, the other flipping through channels like she owned the place. My mom was in the kitchen, half-heartedly stirring something on the stove. She barely looked up when we walked in. "Oh," she said, like we were an unexpected delivery. "Didn't know you were coming. I texted yesterday." I reminded her gently, still holding Lily's hand. "Must have missed it," she replied flatly. Rachel wasn't there, but her girls were making themselves comfortable. Lily stepped forward, smiling shyly at her cousins. "Hi," she said, almost in a whisper. They didn't even look at her. I guided her toward the dining table, where she started pulling out her notebook and crayons. She liked to draw when things felt unfamiliar. Meanwhile, I offered to help Mom with the cooking, but she waved me off, muttering something about not needing more bodies in the kitchen. So, I sat nearby and tried to make small talk, asking about Rachel, about Dad, about her new garden project. She gave me curt answers, eyes darting toward the clock every few minutes. Then Dad came in. He was wearing that old flannel shirt he always wore when he was in a bad mood. His face looked pinched, tired. The moment he saw Lily, his mouth curled in a way I didn't like. Not quite a scowl, more like annoyance. Like her very presence was an inconvenience. "What's she doing here?" he asked. I blinked. "We just stopped by for a little visit. She wanted to see you." He scoffed. "Always drawing or sulking or hiding behind you. Doesn't she do anything useful, Dad?" I started, rising to my feet, but then I heard it. It was Lily. She was crying. Her little hands were covering her drawing, shoulders shaking silently. And standing just behind her, I saw my nieces, both of them smirking. One of them whispered something to the other, and they both started laughing, soft and cruel. My mom didn't even move. She just kept stirring the pot. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't storm out or slam any doors. I just walked over, placed my hand on Lily's back, and whispered, "Let's go, sweetheart." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes and nodded. No one stopped us. No one asked why we were leaving or what had happened. In fact, the only words I heard as we walked out the door came from my dad, muttered under his breath like it was the most natural thing in the world. Kids these days. No backbone. I helped Lily into the car, buckled her in, and drove away. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my heart wasn't. That quiet drive home was the longest one I'd ever taken. Lily didn't speak. She just clutched her drawing, the one they never looked at. It was a picture of our little apartment, with the two of us standing in front of it, smiling. I don't think I'll ever forget that image. That night, I opened my laptop. I logged into my bank account, pulled up the mortgage payments, and stopped them. Then I sent an email to the bank, attaching a copy of the agreement and formally withdrawing my support. I didn't give a reason. 3 months passed. And then, last Thursday, they got the letter. I didn't hear about the letter right away. In fact, I'd started to forget about them entirely. Life got a little quieter after that visit. Lily seemed lighter too, as if cutting that toxic thread somehow gave her room to breathe again. We spent weekends at the park, working on puzzles, drawing together in the evenings. For once, our little apartment felt like enough. More than enough, really, it felt safe. Then the phone call started. The first came from Rachel. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was clipped and frantic. "Hey, Jack, something's going on with Mom and Dad's house. The bank sent this thing? A letter? They said the mortgage hasn't been paid in months. I don't know what's happening, but I figured since you've got your little computer job, maybe you could help sort it out." I didn't respond. A few days later, Mom called. I hadn't heard her voice in months, and for a second, I almost answered. But I let that one go to voicemail too. Her tone wasn't frantic, just confused, like the world wasn't working the way it used to. "We got this notice about the house. I don't know what to do, Jack. Your father thinks it's a mistake, but maybe you could look into it? You always handled those things better than us." Still, I said nothing. Then came the knock on my door. It was a Sunday morning. Lily was in her room, playing with her Legos, humming something from a cartoon she loved. I opened the door, and there stood my dad. Same flannel shirt. Same grimace. Only this time, there was something else under it. Something like desperation. "Can we talk?" he asked. I crossed my arms. "About what?" "You know damn well about what," he muttered, glancing behind him. "The house. The letter. Rachel said it might be some kind of mistake, but, look, I just need to know if you had anything to do with it." I tilted my head. Why would I? He didn't answer at first. His eyes dropped to the floor, and for the first time in years, he looked old. Not just older, old. Weighed down. Broken in places I'd never seen before. We didn't know," he said quietly. "We thought maybe the bank made a deal, or the payments were forgiven during COVID, or something. But now they're saying we're 4 months behind. That if we don't make the full amount, they'll start the foreclosure process." "You are behind," I said flatly. "Because I stopped paying." His head jerked up. "You?" "For 4 years," I said. "Every month. Without a word. And not once did you ask where that money was coming from. Not once did you say thank you. Not even when I brought Lily around and she got treated like garbage." He looked stunned for a moment, like he truly couldn't comprehend what I was saying. "We never asked you to." "No," I cut in. "You didn't. But I did it anyway. Because I thought, I don't know, maybe if I kept helping, you'd finally see me as someone who mattered. Not the failure. Not the soft one. Not the guy whose wife left. Just your son." He opened his mouth, then shut it. His eyes darted around, as if the right words were somewhere in the corners of my hallway. "You yelled at my daughter," I said, my voice tightening. "You told an 8-year-old to be useful, while her cousins laughed and your wife stirred soup like nothing happened. That's what made me stop." "Jack," he started, but I held up a hand. "I don't want an apology. I don't even want to talk. You asked if I had something to do with the foreclosure? Yeah, I did. I stopped saving people who never gave a damn about me or my daughter." His jaw clenched, but he didn't fight back. He just looked tired. He nodded once and stepped back. That night, Rachel sent a group message to the family chat. I wasn't in it, but a cousin forwarded me a screenshot. "Jack's being selfish. He's letting Mom and Dad lose the house out of spite. After everything they did for him growing up. Some people never change." I laughed when I read it. It was that bitter kind of laugh that doesn't come from humor. It comes from years of swallowing disrespect and finally realizing you don't have to anymore. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Because a week later, the house was listed publicly. The bank posted the notice on the door. Yellow tape, big black letters, a date. And suddenly, the call stopped. But then, something unexpected happened. 3 days before the auction, I got a letter in the mail, not from the bank. It was handwritten. No return address. Just my name, scrawled in shaky script. I opened it slowly, not knowing what to expect. Inside, in uneven lines, was a note from my mother. Jack, we didn't know it was you. If we had, maybe things would have been different. Maybe we would have said thank you. Maybe your father would have tried harder. Maybe I would have, too. But now it's too late. I just hope Lily never thinks of us the way you think of us. I'm sorry. That was it. No signature. No plea. No asking for help. And that was the moment I knew. They weren't just losing a house. They were finally realizing they'd already lost something far more valuable. I folded the letter and slid it back into the envelope, setting it quietly on my kitchen table. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I was angry. Not even because I was sad. But because it was the first time in my life I'd seen anything from my mother that sounded even remotely like regret. It should have meant more. It didn't. It felt like showing up to a funeral and dropping flowers on a grave you helped dig. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But either way, the damage had been done. And the auction was still happening. The next few days passed quietly, at least from my end. I knew from a cousin, same one who forwarded the group chat, that the family was scrambling. Rachel had apparently tried getting a loan approved on short notice and had been declined. Her husband had even called the bank pretending to be a representative of the family and was promptly shut down. My dad, according to my cousin, he'd all but locked himself in the basement, drinking and ranting about how kids these days don't know loyalty. The night before the auction, I tucked Lily into bed. She looked up at me with those gentle eyes and said, "Daddy, are Grandma and Grandpa going to be okay?" I paused, brushing her hair back gently. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But that's not your job to worry about." She nodded, then hesitated. "You're not mad at them because of me, right?" That nearly broke me. I sat on the edge of her bed, took her little hand in mine, and said, "I'm not mad because of you. I'm mad because they didn't treat you the way you deserve. And it's my job to protect you, even if it means walking away from people I used to care about." She seemed to think about that, then gave a small, solemn nod. Okay. The next morning was clear and bright, almost mockingly so. I pulled into the cul-de-sac just 10 minutes before the auction was scheduled. The street was unusually quiet for a Saturday. I saw unfamiliar cars parked along the curb, likely potential buyers, investors, maybe even a few neighbors curious to see what was happening to the once model home of the neighborhood. I parked across the street and sat in the car with the windows cracked, letting the breeze in. Lily wasn't with me. I'd arranged for a friend to take her to the museum for the morning. I didn't want her anywhere near this mess. Then I saw them, Rachel and her husband, standing on the porch with forced smiles and stiff postures. Like maybe if they looked calm enough, the situation would magically reverse. My mom was at the window, watching through the curtain. And my dad. He was sitting in a lawn chair at the edge of the driveway, arms folded, face expressionless. The auctioneer arrived with a clipboard and a manila envelope, followed by a couple of suited investors. The formality of it all struck me. For years of silent sacrifice, erased in a 10-minute transaction on the front lawn. There was a microphone. There were bidding cards. It felt unreal. I stepped out of the car and started walking toward the crowd, unnoticed at first. I stayed at the edge of the group, arms crossed, sunglasses on. I wasn't there to save anyone. I was there to witness it. The auction began. The opening bid was lower than I expected, probably because the house hadn't been properly maintained in years. Paint was chipping. Gutters sagged. The lawn looked patchy and unloved. Still, hands went up. Numbers climbed. The air thickened. Rachel kept glancing at her husband, who shook his head at each new price. I could see her whispering, probably trying to convince him to push just once more. He didn't. At one point, my mom stepped out onto the porch, watching like a ghost from an upstairs window. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the railing. My dad didn't move at all. The bidding reached a lull. And then, someone new raised their hand. A woman in her early 50s, neatly dressed, calm demeanor. I didn't recognize her. The auctioneer acknowledged her bid, and a few others glanced her way, unsure. Another investor countered. She waited, then raised her hand again. It went back and forth a few more times, her against two bidders. And then the others stopped. She had the winning bid. The auctioneer confirmed it. Papers were signed. Hands shaken. Rachel's face went pale. Her husband's turned to stone. My mom sank onto the porch steps like her legs gave out. My dad still didn't move. And then the woman walked past the group, past Rachel, past the auctioneer, right up to me. "Are you Jack?" she asked. I blinked. "Yeah." She smiled, pulled a folded note from her bag, and handed it to me. "From Lily," she said simply. Then she turned and walked back toward the house, where the bank representative was now unlocking the front door for her. I opened the note. It was in Lily's handwriting, careful, blocky letters. "Dear Daddy, Miss Janet from the museum said she used to be a lawyer. I asked her if someone could buy a house to keep mean people out, and she said yes. I told her about Grandpa yelling and the cousins being mean and how you paid for the house, but they didn't know. I showed her my drawing, and she said it made her cry a little. She said she'd help. Is it okay that I asked her? I just wanted to help you like you helped me. Love, Lily." I stared at the paper for a long time. My chest felt tight. My vision blurred. Because somehow, in her own innocent, gentle way, my daughter had done what I couldn't. She'd turned the tables. And that was when Rachel saw me. She stormed over, heels clacking furiously on the pavement. "You," she hissed, jabbing a finger in my direction. "What did you do? Who was that woman? Why is she in the house?" I folded Lily's note calmly and slid it into my jacket pocket. "She's the new owner," I said. "And unlike you, she has a little compassion." Rachel's face contorted. "You're seriously letting strangers buy Mom and Dad's house just to spite us?" I raised an eyebrow. "You think I did this for revenge?" Her silence told me everything. But before I could finish the thought, my dad stood up from the lawn chair for the first time since the auction started. He walked toward us slowly, eyes narrowed at me. He stepped forward like a man walking through fog, each movement slow, deliberate, as though his body didn't quite believe it had to function yet. His eyes, usually sharp and piercing, looked lost now. Not confused exactly, more like hollow. My father stopped about 3 feet away from me, close enough that I could smell the old coffee on his breath. He looked between me and Rachel, then at the house, then back at me. "You always thought we didn't care," he said quietly, like he was speaking to no one in particular. "Thought we never appreciated anything you did." I didn't say anything. I just kept my arms folded. Rachel's face twitched, unsure of whether to insert herself into this moment or not. "And you know what?" he continued, still staring at me. "Maybe we didn't." Rachel gasped softly beside me, but he didn't even glance at her. "You were always different. You cried too easily, took things too personally, never fought back. I thought that meant you were weak." His voice cracked, just barely. Turns out, I didn't know what strength looked like. I clenched my jaw. I didn't want to cry. Not here. Not in front of him. Not after everything. "You didn't just pay for the house, did you?" he asked, softer now. "No," I said. "I paid for the groceries when Mom's card got declined. I paid for your prescription after you refused to go to the doctor. I bought the new tires on Rachel's car 2 Christmases ago. And I sent cash, anonymously, every time someone said they were struggling." He swallowed hard. "Why?" I gave him a long, cold look. "Because I didn't want Lily to grow up learning that family only helps when it's convenient. I thought if I kept giving, maybe one day it would mean something. Maybe you'd see me." Rachel shook her head, arms crossed now, trying to reclaim control of the conversation. "Okay, seriously, what is this? Some kind of emotional ambush? Are we supposed to feel guilty now?" "No," I said. "You're not supposed to feel anything." I stopped expecting that a long time ago. From the porch, my mom stood up slowly. Her face looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past hour. She stepped down the stairs and approached us. "Jack," she said quietly, "I wrote you that letter because I didn't know what else to do." "I know," I replied. "I was embarrassed," she added. "Not just about the house, but about the way we treated you. We always said we were doing our best, but deep down, I think I knew we only loved you when it was easy. When you didn't ask for anything. When you stayed quiet." My throat tightened. Lily's letter was still in my jacket pocket, and for a moment, I almost showed it to her. Almost. But I didn't. Because I'd learned something in the past few months. Closure doesn't always come from being understood. Sometimes it comes from understanding that you don't need the apology to move on. "I appreciate the letter," I said. She blinked. "That's all." "Yeah, that's all." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, then closed it again. Her eyes drifted back toward the house, Her home for 32 years, now legally owned by someone else. Rachel, still fuming beside me, stepped forward. You really let some stranger buy the house out from under them? You realize you've destroyed everything they had left, right? I laughed, not cruelly, just tiredly. Destroyed what? The illusion? The fake smiles? The way you all made Lily feel like she was an afterthought while your kids got praised for existing. Rachel's eyes narrowed. You always were jealous. That got my attention. I turned slowly toward her. Jealous? I repeated. I spent my entire life trying to earn a fraction of the praise you got for showing up late to dinner. I watched you flunk out of college, crash 2 cars, get bailed out of credit card debt, while I was working 2 jobs to feed my kid and still managed to be called disappointing. You were the sun, Rachel. No matter how much you burned everyone else, Mom and Dad couldn't look away. She didn't have a comeback for that. My father sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. What now? He asked. We're homeless. You're not, I said. Janet, Ms. Martin, the woman who bought the house, she's not keeping it. She's donating it to a housing program. One that helps single parents who've been kicked out or left behind by family. She said Lily inspired her. Rachel gasped. What? Wait, you can't be serious. That house is worth more than the people in it ever realized. I cut in. But yeah, she's serious. She's turning it into something useful. And what about us? My mom asked. You'll have to figure that out, I said. But don't worry, the program has contacts. If you're serious about starting over, they'll help. But you'll have to apply, like everyone else. There was a long silence. My parents stood there, one looking ashamed, the other stunned. Rachel? She stormed off to her car, muttering something about lawsuits and betrayal, but nobody followed her. I stayed for another minute. Then I turned to leave. Jack, my father called after me. I stopped but didn't turn around. Thank you, he said. And this time, he meant it. Later that night, I sat with Lily on our couch. She was flipping through one of her sketchbooks, humming again. She looked up at me and smiled. Did they like the house? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, they liked it. Is it okay that I told Miss Janet? She asked quietly. I didn't mean to make things worse. I pulled her into my arms. You didn't make anything worse. You made everything better. She grinned and leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat there, just the two of us, the weight of years finally lifted. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like someone trying to earn love. I just felt free. And that was enough.